Hey everyone, I'm Gina, and this is Weird True Crime. The murders of Priscilla Gustafson and her children, William, who was 5 at the time, and Abigail, who was 7, are nothing short of gruesome. Their deaths are the exclamation point at the end of what has become a sensationalized, tall tale focused on their murderer, Daniel LaPlante. This story has been told many times, but like a childhood game of telephone, the details have become convoluted into a blockbuster thriller. There's really no need to embellish, though. The truth is eerie enough. We're going to get into a little bit of background on Daniel LaPlante. He was born in Townsend, Massachusetts on May 16th of 1970 and lived with his mother, Elaine Moore, and stepfather, along with several brothers and sisters. And an ironic twist, he lived on Elm Street. Unfortunately, Danny did not have a safe and loving life at home and was abused by his father and stepfather. His father is said to be the one responsible for most of the abuse, which allegedly included physical, emotional, and sexual abuse frequently throughout his childhood. Danny also struggled academically and was diagnosed with dyslexia at an early age, but was given no support for it. He was socially awkward and bullied due to his odd behavior and lack of personal hygiene. Peers called him weird and creepy. In his early teens, school officials referred to him to a psychiatrist due to his abnormal behavior, lack of hygiene, and overall appearance. While I'm glad officials showed concern for him, I question what steps were taken prior to the referral. Did the school contact his parents or try to gain a better understanding of what was going on in his home life? Was the decision to see a psychiatrist made in agreement between his parents and the school? I couldn't find more information about what sort of relationship there was between the school and the LaPlante family, so it's impossible to know who approved the decision to send him to a psychiatrist. Unfortunately, the step did more harm than good for Danny's story. While he was diagnosed with ADHD, the psychiatrist began sexually abusing Danny, adding more trauma to the already tormented young man. By the age of 15, Danny had begun breaking into neighboring homes and committing minor theft. I can't help but feel bad for Danny the child, with no sense of safety at home and more than likely no guidance when it comes to basic skills such as bathing or socialization. Is it really a surprise he was socially off? Nature versus nurture is often brought up when talking about murderers or abusers. It's safe to say that this case is more than likely due to a lack of nurture. While the acts he committed as a teenager and adult are horrendous, we can still feel sad for the young boy who was forced to endure such a treatment. Hold on to your seat, though, because any empathy you might feel for LaPlante will fall to the wayside when we get into the next part of the story. 15-year-old Tina Bowen and her 9-year-old sister Karen lived with their father, Frank, in Pepperell, Massachusetts. Sadly, they lost their mother to cancer in 1985. Finding a new normal after a tragic loss is challenging, so I'm sure Tina was happy for a diversion when she briefly dated then 16-year-old Daniel LaPlante in April of 1986. Frank Bowen became acquainted with LaPlante when he drove him and his daughter Tina to the movies on a Friday evening. The following Sunday, which was Easter, Danny went to dinner with the Bowens and Tina's 16-year-old friend, Kathy Knapp. The romance was short-lived, however, when Tina learned from schoolmates that LaPlante was facing rape charges. I couldn't find any details on the charges and can't say what the outcome of those charges were, but I can't say that I blame Tina for cutting off their relationship, or as short-lived as it was, after learning of these so-called allegations. At some point after Tina ended the relationship with Danny, she and her sister began experiencing odd occurrences in their home. Strange noises, items mysteriously moved, and TV channels changing when they would leave the room. It's easy to let the imagination run wild, and the girls surely thought they were being haunted. Frank Bowen didn't believe the claims, probably chalking it up to attention-seeking behavior after the loss of their mother. Things quickly escalated when the police received a call on December 8th of 1986 about a hostage situation at 93 Lawrence Street. When officers arrived, they found an unharmed Frank Bowen along with his daughters Tina and Karen and friend Kathy Knapp. The intruder had left the scene. Frank Bowen stated that the group arrived home to find the toilet had been used and items were out of place. Upon searching the home, he found a man with spiked hair, a painted face, and wearing a hairy jacket hiding in a closet. While holding a spiked hatchet in one hand and a steel wrench in the other, the intruder calmly ordered all four of them into a bedroom. Tina managed to escape, running to a neighbor's house to call police. Frank Bowen identified the hatchet as one he kept on his nightstand, which honestly I have questions about, like, who keeps a hatchet on their nightstand? That's an interesting choice of weapon for self-defense, but I mean, I'm not going to judge, and this was the 80s, so, different time, different ideas of what's a good thing to keep on your nightstand. But anyway, when asked to identify the intruder, the Bowen said he looked to be 22 years old and about 6 feet tall. We now know that the intruder was indeed Daniel LaPlante, but this shows that his disguise successfully hid his true identity to the Bowens. Unsurprisingly, the Bowens decided to stay elsewhere after the break-in. Frank went back to the home on December 10th to retrieve some of the family's belongings, only to see a face in the front window when he arrived. He called Pepperell Police, and Officer Stephen Bezinson arrived on scene to investigate. Later, Bezinson would recall, "I could tell as I drove up. Bowen was very upset. He's pointing at the house. I said to myself, here we go. He's going to say he saw the guy at the window." Taking Bowen's keys, Bezinson entered the home where he discovers a family picture on the wall with a knife through it. Written on the picture with magic marker were the words, "I'm still here. Come find me." On another wall was another picture with a knife through it and the phrase, "I'm going to kill you all." Smartly, Bezinson calls for backup, and Chief David Young and Sergeant Jim Scott soon arrived at the location. A check of the property yielded no results, but Bezinson refused to give up so easily. Further investigation led the officer to an outer wall with an 8-inch opening that led to a small triangular space where the pipes were hidden. It was there that Bezinson discovered a pile of clothes hiding none other than 16-year-old Daniel LaPlante. I know it's hard to picture what the space looks like in your head. I am going to include a drawing that was made of this space on the blog and on social media so you can have a better understanding of what it looked like. It's honestly still kind of hard to understand, so I'm going to try to explain it a little bit more. Basically, there was an outer wall that had about an 8.5 inch gap where you could jump 4 feet up onto the top of the foundation of the home and then jump down into this small triangular space where pipes were hidden from the elements, I'm assuming, being that it's Massachusetts. I'm in Texas. I don't know what it's like to have really cold weather. But this is where LaPlante would squeeze through and then jump down and hide. And then while the Bowens were not paying attention or not home, he would make his way into the home from this spot and move things around or, hide in a closet until they got back. So like I said, I'll post a picture of this so you can get a better visual of what it looked like, but it is a little bit hard to understand. Honestly, the true details of this event vary greatly with the tales often told on podcasts and blogs that have been written about this case. Most depict the story of LaPlante calling Tina, claiming to be a friend of a friend, and lying about his appearance. Once on a date to the state fair, LaPlante shows morbid interest in the details of Tina's mother's death, asking questions about how she suffered and felt in her last moments. Stories are also told of a seance where Tina and Karen attempt to contact their mother, writing on the walls and other haunting details. None of this appear to be true based on the news reports and statements made from those involved. Sadly, some blogs even refer to Tina and Karen Bowen as Jessica and Annie Andrews. Facts in this case are hair-raising enough without salacious additions. When retelling true events, the least we can do is tell the real story and use the victims' actual names when it's appropriate to do so. Daniel LaPlante was held in a juvenile facility for 10 months following the incident at the Bowen residence. His case was then transferred to Lowell Superior Court, where he was held on a $10,000 bail. An individual close to the LaPlante family stated that Danny's mother, Elaine, remortgaged their house to get the bail money for his release in October of 1987. Needless to say, the neighbors were not thrilled to see the young man roaming their neighborhood once again. And it didn't take long for Danny to get back to his old antics, breaking into the Pendel home at 38 Elm Street on October 14th of 1987, where he stole 2 Ruger .22 caliber guns, holsters, and a large amount of cash. His stepfather found one of the guns in a holster in a laundry basket 3 weeks later. Danny said he obtained the gun a year earlier. Danny then broke into the Gustafson home on November 16th of 1987, stealing 2 television cable boxes, television remotes, a telephone, and coins from a silver dollar collection. He decided to hide the items in his brother Steven's toolbox, telling him he didn't want their parents to find them. During this time, Danny asked his brother Steven and his friend Michael Pulowski for bullets, stating that he wanted to make 1 large bullet and sell it. I'm not sure how one would make 1 large bullet out of multiple smaller bullets or what type of weapon that would fit, but it's definitely an interesting reason for needing them. Regardless, Pulowski gave Danny several .22 caliber bullets near the end of November of 1987. Daniel LaPlante decided to return to the Gustafson home on December 1st, 1987, with his .22 caliber in tow. The house was empty when he broke in, but his plans changed when 33-year-old Priscilla and her 5-year-old son William returned home. He considered jumping from a window, but instead decided to confront the pregnant mother and her child. LaPlante put William in a closet and tied Priscilla to the bed, where he proceeded to rape her and then shoot her twice in the head. He then drowned William in an upstairs bathroom. While leaving the home, he encountered 7-year-old Abigail, who had just returned home from school. LaPlante lured her into the downstairs bathroom, where he drowned her as well. Andrew Gustafson returned home from work around 5 p.m., where he discovered his wife unresponsive on the bed with a pillow over her face. He immediately called police. Upon arrival, officers John Johnson and George Aho of the Townsend Police Department entered and searched the home, discovering William and Abigail in different bathrooms. While Andrew Gustafson was coming to grips with the brutal murder of his entire family, LaPlante was eating dinner and attending his niece's birthday party as if nothing happened. Police began investigating the scene at the Gustafson home immediately following the killings. Evidence at and surrounding the scene were plentiful, to say the least. Carolyn LeClaire, a chemist with the Department of Public Safety, found semen in a piece of condom near one corner of the bedspread where Priscilla was found. A saliva-soaked brown sock with a knot in it was found in the bedroom closet and appeared to have been used as a gag. LeClaire also found several ligatures, a necktie, a sock, stockings, and pantyhose which appeared to be knotted and cut. An opened but full bottle of beer from the Gustafsons' fridge was also found in the bedroom. Police trooper Robert Hippler and his scent dog, Mike, picked up a scent from a pillowcase with 2 bullet holes in the Gustafsons' bedroom. The dog followed the scent to a pile of rocks in the woods behind the home, where 2 unmatched gloves and a blue shirt with the Gustafson family sign in it were found. When Mike got distracted by some skunks in the area, Trooper Cleveland Coates and his scent dog, Spike, picked up the scent on the pile and followed it right up to the LaPlante's front door. Sneaker prints headed in the direction of the LaPlante home also matched up with prints found outside the Gustafson home. These facts, along with other evidence found, gave enough reason to issue a warrant for the arrest of Danny LaPlante for the murders. Danny, knowing he was wanted in connection for the crimes, took to the woods to hide from authorities. Lieutenant Tom Lane led the hunt for LaPlante and pulled into the driveway of Lynn McGovern, whose home was close to the wooded area. Lynn had just returned home and, fearful of a run-in with the fugitive, asked Lieutenant Lane to escort her into her home. Little did they know that LaPlante was actually hiding upstairs and armed with a revolver, shotgun, and a high-powered rifle that he had stolen from another property. Startled by Lane's appearance, Danny dropped the shotgun at the top of the stairs and jumped through a window, landing on the roof of the garage and running back into the woods. Hours later, Lieutenant Lane headed toward Elm Street after several reports of a suspicious person where he heard a woman screaming in a home nearby. LaPlante had held the woman, Mrs. Pam Mekala, hostage and forced her to drive him out of the area in her bright orange van covered in for sale signs. She escaped by jumping from the car and was then escorted to a neighbor's house. Officers tracked this unmistakable vehicle to the neighboring town of Ayers, Massachusetts, where it was found empty. LaPlante was soon tracked to a trash dumpster and finally apprehended. Daniel LaPlante was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences for the murders of Priscilla, Abigail, and William Gustafson. He was eligible for parole after 15 years for each sentence, which is 45 years. In 2019, LaPlante's lawyer asked the highest court in Massachusetts for a shot at early release. Luckily, his request was denied. Tina and Karen Bowen were both interviewed for an upcoming documentary about the saga in September of 2021. Their lives were never the same after being tormented by Daniel LaPlante in 1986. Frank Bowen, their father, left the girls for an unknown amount of time and died at the young age of 50. Karen Bowen, now Ruchello, is battling stage 4 kidney disease and will probably need a kidney transplant. She has a GoFundMe, so please donate and support this woman who has already been through enough. I will link the GoFundMe in the show notes, and please feel free to go donate anything you can to this poor woman who has already lived enough of a dramatic life and should just be able to live out her remaining years in peace. I will also link all of the resources for this case in the show notes as well as on the blog. Everything I used was either an original newspaper article on the case from 1987 and 1988 or this amazing post I found by retired Lieutenant Tom Lane, who was actually involved in the case while it was happening. No matter how much digging I did, I could not find any truth to the stories of the seances or that Danny got Tina's number from a friend. Honestly, I believe that those are details that got added over time to make the story more exciting or, like a horror movie. And honestly, it's just not necessary because the story itself is so horrible and honestly weird. He was a weird guy who unfortunately had a really rough childhood, and it ended in the murders of a pregnant woman and her 2 children, and that's devastating. And I hope this guy stays in prison for the rest of his life because that's where he deserves to be. Thank you so much for listening to the first episode of Weird True Crime. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you did. Leave a review, hopefully a nice one. I do want to start reading reviews on the show once, I have enough listeners to do so. Please feel free to email me at weirdtruecrime@gmail.com to say hi or request certain cases or give me your own stories. I would love to hear them. Also, please go follow me on Instagram at weirdtruecrime. I will be posting all of the pictures related to the episodes there as well. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.